Good morning. So there's been a couple of different iterations of Supply Connect. I think some of you may have either seen it before, but the cool thing about Supply Connect is there are many different pieces of our supply chain that it affects everyone. And we generally will focus on trucking or we'll focus on cement aggregate suppliers. But an interesting aspect of this is the admixture part. Admixtures are just as key to our business as cement aggregate. Sand and rock, things like that. So what we're going to talk about today is how Wayne Davis Concrete in Georgia partnered with Sika, their admixture supplier, and how Sika is actually using Supply Connect to help him plan his day and is making a better partner for Jacob. So I'll kind of go through a quick little intro here and kind of talk about the basics of Supply Connect and what we're doing, and then I'm going to turn it over to see, you got the wrong name badge, and you're freaking me out over there. I'm going to turn it over to Paul in just a minute with Sika, and then what we really want to do is just sort of have you ask questions of us and just have a discussion and kind of tell you how he makes it work. And more importantly, just as important is how it works for Jacob as concrete plans. So I think you've probably seen this a million times, so we have to throw that up there as well. Make sure everyone's behaving. So the main theme of, and some of you have seen the Supply Connect presentation, so you've seen this a couple times, but the main thing we're trying to get in our world is we're all one supply chain. We're all dependent on each other. Everything, every piece does affects us. And it was funny, the speaker this morning was sort of saying some of the same things about visibility and knowing what's going on with every link in the chain, right? Our challenge over the years, though, is that we've separated these supply chains. We manage one side one way, and then we manage the bulk materials upstream stuff a totally different way. So the problem with that is that we've got one supply chain that's supposed to be working together, and we're working as two, right? And I think we know this world over here is very volatile. It changes a lot. The challenge with the material supplier side is the more volatile that is, the more unorganized and the more costly your upstream material side is going to be. Right? One thing affects the other. And the point I want to get across in my theme through this whole conference has been is that the whole supply chain is affected by this, and we have key cogs. Three main ones: material suppliers, the transportation provider that's getting the material, whether you own the transportation yourself or you're using a third party, and then the ready-mix producer. They each have their own challenges, they each have their own processes, but our same goal is the same at the end of the day. So the big difference between these two processes is that on one side, the ready-mix side, you've got two things, and you're going to hear me say this a lot. And actually, it was funny hearing him say it a lot this morning, is visibility and timely information. We have that on the ready-mix side because you have to. I'll get into that in just a minute. We don't have it on the material side. Some of these folks are flying blind at times. So what we've got to do is we've got to get this level of visibility and timely information. We've got to get it to our material suppliers as well, however you're managing it. So when you talk about the material supplier, and we'll talk specific admixtures at this point, some of his pain points are, a lot of times I always say admixture companies, everything's an emergency, right? They get a call when we're out, oh my gosh, I need admixture there, we're going to run out, we can't make this pour. So that does is that makes their ability to service all their customers makes it challenging, right? And they spend a lot of time gathering information, and the reason for a lot of these pain points is that lack of communication. They're having to be reactive and react when customers say go, and it's very costly and time consuming for them. And like I said, everything's always an emergency in the admixture world, right? So that leads us to Supply Connect. And the goal of Supply Connect is, we're trying to get the right material, whatever that material is, to the right plant at the right time. And something important to point out here is we're not trying to get all the material, we're trying to get the right amount of material. And the answer to the question of what is the right amount of material depends on your ready-mix demand. And that's what Supply Connect is going to pull across. And so we're trying to reduce this risk of material interruptions and running out, but at the same time control our cost. And you can do both. We never have in the past. We've always paid whatever it takes, spend whatever it takes to make sure we don't run out of material. I say you can do both. You can actually keep yourself in material, but you can do it cost effectively as well. And you can do this if you increase visibility. He said a quote this morning. I almost stood up and gave him a standing ovation when he said, "If you can see it, you don't have to have it full." Right? So if you can see this visibility in your supply chain, I didn't tell him to say that. I've actually never met him, but he was it was music to my ears. If you can see every aspect of the supply chain up and downstream, you don't have to keep your plant chock full of things. Helps these guys when they're trying to unload admixtures at plants. It also helps them when they can be a little more proactive and they can anticipate needs. So that's how Supply Connect is going to help us get where we need to be. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get these two supply chains to work together. And we feel like Supply Connect is going to be the key piece of that. So what I'll do, I'll turn it over to Paul now and kind of let him talk about his company, the area that they're working in now and where he services, and then kind of how he uses Supply Connect, and then let's just have a discussion and we'll get some Q&A going.
Yeah, let me start by telling you a little bit about Sika. Sika is a global construction chemicals company. We're actually the largest construction chemical company in the world. There's bigger chemical companies, but they actually do a small percentage of what they do is construction chemicals. With Sika, everything we do is construction chemicals. So we have a huge presence globally here in the United States and North America, but represented at this conference were individuals from our two southeast regions. So the Carolinas, Georgia, Florida, and Alabama, a little bit of Tennessee, that's one region, and then Texas and surrounding states are. We have a manufacturing facility around Atlanta, Georgia, and one outside of Houston, Texas, too. So that's where we manufacture raw materials and admixtures. We have service coverage, salespeople and dispenser technicians, equipment technicians in every state in this region, and we're full service admixtures. If you can imagine it, we'll make an admixture to do it. But we also carry pigments now. We bought Schofield Color. We have fibers. We have a lot of extra items like disposable curing blankets, repair products. So we dominate the field of construction chemicals, even in this region. We've had Wayne Davis Concrete for a customer about 12 years. That's about how long we've been in Atlanta. They were one of the first customers that we partnered with when we first built this facility in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Now, I've been with Sika about 9 years. I've been in Atlanta about 7. And I've been in the industry right out of school back in the late 80s. And if it wasn't for concrete, I'd probably be working at McDonald's. It's the only thing I know how to do. So let's talk about how we do this. So Jacob actually asked me to participate in this endeavor, to take a look at this tracking system. And I'm always up for anything my customers want me to take a look at. So I decided, let's give it a shot. So how did we used to do it? How do we used to manage inventory at a customer's facility? So we have large tanks, large plastic tanks at a concrete plant, and they use up the admixtures and we bring more. It's very simple, but it gets complex, and if there's multiple plants and each plant might have different size tanks. So chemical A might be in a 2,000 gallon tank here, and across town it might be in a 500 gallon tank here. So now it becomes very difficult and cumbersome to manage how much they'll need, even though I know how much they're using. Another part is how do we expect what they'll use? How do we predict their usage? So they're not getting orders for concrete 500 yards a day, 7 days a week. They're not getting even load of production of concrete, so they're not using my material evenly either. So they could set on half a tank of something for weeks and then all of a sudden use it up really quickly. So how do I predict what they're using? The way I do it conventionally is go by and visit a plant. Go talk to the plant manager every month and then ask them, are you going to be busy? And usually they know when a large project's coming up. But sometimes there's medium projects coming up that it doesn't really register to them as a large project. Or it uses a lot of chemical, specific mix design, but it's not really an increase in yardage. So now sometimes this can sneak up on you. Increased demand and usage could creep up. What that meant, though, is that even if I knew that there was going to be an increase in usage, I had to ask and I had to have the conversations, and then I had to come out to that plant over and over. So if I commit to my customer, I'll be in every plant every 4 weeks, and the busy ones every 2 weeks. That's fine, but then if they get real busy, now I'm out every week, or sometimes extremely busy and out twice a week. but I had to manage that, and that was always different. So that was the old way that we're doing it. And this became a problem, or the problems associated with this is when you can't be there all the time, and then you can't get the information out of the plant about increased usage. And like I mentioned before, that's not that the plant's not telling you. They just don't realize they're going to be using more of a specific chemical at some point. They don't know to tell you the information. They don't know what information is important. So then they could get low on an admixture before they even realize it. Then what happens is a telephone call. I am down to 100 gallons, big pour tomorrow morning, I need something, I need it quick. And then there's the pain associated with it. That means I have to scramble to get something quick. Maybe I have something on the road I can just divert to them. Maybe that means I put 300 gallons in a container and drive it across Atlanta in traffic in the middle of the day on a Silverado. And so there's a lot of pain associated with doing it that way. But whatever it is, we're going to get the product so they're not shut down. So the pain's mine to bear if I don't keep up with the inventory. And that's the pain associated with the old way of doing it. And the cost, you can imagine. If I can deliver, I plan my sales based on delivering in tanker trucks. If I have to make 3 trips a month somewhere with my pickup truck, then there's a cost of me dragging that around. There's a cost of small loads, and then there's a cost of me not being on a sales circuit trying to sell to the industry projects and stuff. So there's a great cost to emergency reactions. Oh, I can't go back. Okay. So
I know I can try to restart if you need to go back.
No.
Okay.
I think I covered everything I wanted to cover in this.
Okay. I don't know what's wrong with this thing.
So when using Command Connect, this is what I see as an admixture supplier. So we're connected in to use this, and if I logged on to a laptop, this is the screen I would see. It's not the home screen, but this is what I'm interested in. Here I have plant names, each individual facility. I have a product, so what I'm seeing here is water reducers for each plant. So I know the plant name, the product, I have a capacity, that's what size tank I have at that facility. So for instance, here in Calhoun, I have a 1,500 gallon tank for my water reducer, and then it actually tells me how many gallons they have. So the way the color-coded system works, which is great for reacting very quickly. Blue means everything's fine. They have enough to produce on. I don't have to worry about it. When it turns to green, now I can order for that plant. We've set order levels. So when it turns green, that catches my eye. Let me try to get them some product out. I got a few days to get it to them. Once it gets to a certain level, it'll turn yellow. If I see any yellow on there, I need to react very quickly. And then when it gets really low, it turns red, and that's when I can expect a call from Jacob. So I see red, he's going to call me. I better answer that call. But
because he's seeing red too at that point.
He's seeing red.
Yeah.
But this has made it really easy to manage what's going on in the plant. It's given me a couple advantages as a supplier. It means that I can build out delivery trucks easier. So when we deliver in a tanker, it's a 4,000 gallon capacity tanker, 4,200 gallons typically, depends on the weight of the product. And then I want to keep it to about 4 or 5 stops, no more than 5 stops. And that's an efficient truck. Well, if I'm just taking calls from people, or if I'm just visiting plants, it's really hard to equal exactly 4,200 gallons. When I have this, I can start planning trucks. Well, I know he can hold 1,000 gallons of something, but if I only deliver 800 today and fill the truck out with something to another plant, then I might have to deliver more, or have more trucks on the road, but they're all efficient trucks. They're all 4,200 gallons. So it's giving me the advantage of building out trucks and planning my loads in the future. And it's also given me the advantage of being able to check in on these plants all the time. So we've had a couple of projects where they would produce 24 hours a day for days on end. A couple of projects where they were producing Saturdays and Sundays. No one at Sika's factory works Saturdays and Sundays. No matter what you tell them, they won't come in on a Saturday and Sunday. If he needs water reducer on the Sunday, that's my problem, but no one in the factory thinks it's theirs. So as an example, when they were working weekends, I would check this every Thursday. I'd check that plant on Thursday, and I would see where they were at. And I'd know Friday I'll have a truck on the road, and I'd fill up whatever I can to top off the tanks on Friday, and reserve a truck every Friday just to go to that plant. And if I top them up on Friday, then they would be ready for another delivery about Monday morning on this specific project. So this allowed me real-time planning for these weekend pours that I didn't have the process in our factories to produce for. Otherwise, if it wasn't for that, I would have had to store extra product in totes and small tanks and then go out on the weekends and pump it over myself. So there was a lot of pain alleviated from being able to plan for that. But those are rare situations. They're important not to have those problems. They're rare situations. The biggest benefit has been able to even load deliveries. And even I have other customers. There's been scenarios where I have 3,800 gallons on a tanker. And I can look up while I pull over at McDonald's and on the phone with the girl in the office, pull this up and find out I can fill the rest of that truck up with a few hundred gallons to this one plant. So even loading trucking has been a true benefit to the process. I can cover most of this. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. I'll tell you that there's a key to it. So the industry has tank monitors, so little systems hooked up to Wi-Fi that will actually read the volume of the tank and email it out. It's not that. But if a plant's really good about checking the inventory and keeping up with it, making sure it's accurate, and I visit every plant every month, so I'll go in and check the inventories while I'm there to make sure it's accurate. You never know, sometimes the inventories get off a little for whatever reason. But as long as the plants are consistent about auditing the system and keeping up with it, it's been great. I've had plants since we started using this that have been dead on every week when I check them. They're dead on every week no matter what. So entering the data on the receiver load, and I think we audit it maybe once a month, make sure the tank levels are accurate, and it's been great for us. So yeah, I would recommend that. I know I'm forgetting some things about it. Any questions about the system, how it works?
That was great, thank you.
Are you using sensors or are you using batch computer? Inventory batch computer.
Right now, yeah, they're keeping the. I think they're keeping the.
Yeah, before Supply Connect, our plants run bi-monthly inventories. They inventory everything on the yard. We'd get our admixture inventory. I'd build it into an Excel sheet and send it to him. Well, since we've integrated to this, when they do their bi-monthly inventory, we just check computer and visual and make any adjustments. That way, what he sees is accurate.
Just as an antidote, for the first time in my life, I took 2 weeks of vacation this past year. Took my wife to Europe, and when I used to take 1 week of vacation, I would be sweating the whole time about what was going on back at the plants. But to be honest, I had the least amount of anxiety ever on vacation because while I was in Rome, I was checking inventories at the plant. Okay, no problem. And then I can go back to enjoying the vacation. But you can do this from anywhere in the world. Man.
You show them your phone?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, show them your.
So I really don't use it on the laptop much at all. In fact, I don't use my laptop much for work. Everything's on the phone. So I can sign in on here. I have a little button on the iPhone. I click and enter the password and sign on, and I see everything we saw in there. So I can search it by the facility and then by a product. So I can check for product or I can check facility location at a time. But I hardly ever even get on there at a time. So I can check while I'm driving around or while I'm in the office or while I'm home in bed just on the iPhone.
There's a Supply Connect app of some sort.
Well, no, actually, he just pulls up the website. I mean, it's a website.
So you can pin a web address to the screen on the iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I've done is pin it there. It feels like an app to me. It looks like an app.
Yeah, it lines up fairly nice on the phone. I was actually a little nervous about that, but it actually looks pretty good. We're about to start getting it more mobile friendly.
Mm-hmm.
It looks great on a tablet. I think you look at yours on a tablet too. But yeah, we're gonna make it a little more mobile friendly here soon.
How are you getting demand? Are you getting demand information in there?
We've actually just got him demand. It was just some tweaking on some things, but now he can see live demand from our admixtures.
And it pulls the demand in just like it does for any other raw material, so he can see demand over time and how it does. Now, admixtures are a little bit different than cement, so that your inventory should last a little longer. But at least if he puts a 1,200 yard pour in there, he should be able to see how that's going to affect that inventory without picking up the phone, without having to drive out there. He has it all in front of him.
you know, if somebody verbally, if a plant manager verbally told me we're gonna have a 1,200 yard pour on Tuesday, I don't know what time of day Tuesday it starts, but I can actually watch the tank go down on this app and then know when I can, you know, have a truck arrive and how much it can hold at whatever hour he's gonna be there.
Well, it's even better too. We have some of these projects, you know, they're a little further away, so they're using, you know, we'll start with this dose of a hydration stabilizer. You know, the first 10 trucks get there, and we need to go up a little bit. So they increase the order, and it changes on his screen. So he, you know, it reforecasts the demand. You know, we're going to run out sooner. So he sees that anytime we make changes to our mixes, you know, it updates the admixture forecast for him to see.
Do you put in, so do you know when he's going to deliver? Does he say, okay, I'm going to deliver a load tomorrow?
Honestly.
No, usually I tell the plant manager, but just to give him a heads up. And, you know, sometimes we deliver a little after hours or try to get on the road early, so I always call the plant and just see when the gate's going to be open. So, you know, we don't do that through this.
Actually, I tell the story a couple times of Jacob's plant manager called him one day. I think that's the day I was over there in your office. He said, "Hey, you know, our tank's getting half full, or we're starting to use a little bit of this. Can you call Sika?" So I think I was there. Jacob called Paul, and he was like, "Yeah, I already knew that. Your deliveries would be there in the morning."
Yeah, that's right. I already had it on the way.
Yeah, I already had it on the way. So he knew before Jacob knew because he could see it, and so you know, your guys at the plants can go on focusing on what they should be doing. And
that was our goal with this, is just a handoff, you know, instead of me being involved with it, you know, push it off to Paul, he can monitor it, you know, and if the only time I see him is to go to lunch, that makes me perfectly happy.
Me too. Yeah. I don't know if this is how it shows up on the iPhone. Bring it out so you guys see it. So I'm listed by plant. So at the top, it'll list everything from, let's say, it starts in Union City and then by product. So actually, I'll pull off the road and pull this up, and then jot down the plant name, and then look at each chemical, and then make the order list. So as we go down here, there's a couple in yellow, so I could probably call in this order. So I'll wait till a couple more pop up yellow, monitor this, make sure it doesn't get too low, and then I can build a truck around this demand.
Still need to work on getting time pushes.
actually, I think I have it in there. We just need to get it.
Are you using this right now, Paul, with anyone else other than Jason? Okay.
No, just these guys.
Very good. But your world would be better if you were.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like the speaker said, it allows me to see what's happening in the plant inventories.
Yeah.
That's nice. Very good.
We have our batch man. Our batch man is
They're ordering right straight from the plant. Yeah.
which depends on the batch man, the quality of the
Some feel better when it's full, right? And then others get busy, and next thing you know, it's uh-oh. Right. All right, well, any other questions, you know, we'll stick around for a little bit if you got anything. If not, wrapped up a little early. So appreciate you guys being here.
Yeah, thanks for
Thanks,
your attention.
Jason.
Yeah, thank you.